You really want my answer?
I can tell your mind's spinning right now.
I think he wants to stick it up his family's ass.
I love you.
What better place for Shane to show up than 80,000 people at Wembley Stadium, right? That's called the tease, Coach.
And look who's back again. It's your favorite boys from BTT. Welcome into Behind the Turnbuckle. You never know what you're going to get every single week. Sometimes an interview, sometimes a discussion, because we are building a brand, not just a show. My partner, as always, he's becoming a legend in his own mind. Big Tommy C, Tommy Carlucci. Hello once again, sir.
What's going on, Coach? Great to see you. Great to be back working here, and let's kick this thing off, man. We got a lot of things to talk about.
We certainly do, and we're going to start this week. By the way, next week, Maven's going to be our guest next week. Can't wait for that. Also, Chris Van Vliet, we're recording next week as well. But, Tommy, we're going to start the discussion this week because it's a busy week in the world of pro wrestling for all of the different brands, and we're starting with an AEW topic, but we're starting with your old boss. Because our man MJF recently went on a podcast and he warned Shane McMahon, and it's starting to catch steam of him potentially going to AEW because he said his contract is over the WWE. I didn't know he had a contract, Tommy.
Yeah.
I didn't, but apparently he did.
Yep.
But Tommy, MJF said he better stay away from me if he even shows up. They've got a big event coming up August 25th, which is what, this Sunday?
Yep.
Do you think maybe MJF is setting the stage for potentially a Shane McMahon arrival this weekend? Perhaps?
In our business, and we know this, Coach, that's called the tease, Coach. And he's teasing it out there in social media, and everybody's jumping on it. And I think something could be percolating here, man. Now, whether it's true or not, who knows? But it piques your interest. It's going to probably make you want to buy the pay-per-view and watch it to see if Shane shows up. What better place for Shane to show up than 80,000 people at Wembley Stadium, right? He'd get the biggest pop of his lifetime.
Oh.
And it's a McMahon showing up on a rival wrestling company. Think of that. That's never happened, Coach.
This is a very unique family when you're talking about the McMahons. And you could use the word dysfunctional if you want to. We saw Stephanie show up at SummerSlam, correct? And took a seat in the audience. That was for a reason. She didn't have to do that. She just wanted to show up. She could have just gone backstage, glad-handed everybody, all good. They put her in a seat for a reason. This, because every big entertainment organization, especially pro wrestling, you need moments. You need reasons for people to watch your biggest events. That's why WrestleMania has so many celebrities and all these different things to get everybody to watch. Tommy, this would be one of the biggest moments, maybe the biggest moment in AEW history, if they could convince Shane McMahon, who, as we know, we haven't seen him with his father in the same place in years. He came and went when you and I were there all the time.
Yep.
And for him to go to a rival with Tony Khan, the fanboy, boy, I cannot even imagine not just him showing up in that pop, but the fallout afterwards. And if I'm him, I'm not doing an interview for a while.
Right.
So I want to speculate on why he decided to do it if he does. And Tommy, at this point, why wouldn't they?
Why wouldn't they is right. I mean, it's an all win-win for Tony Khan, right? Shane would be worth $15 million just for that pop to come out, and that seeing a McMahon is showing up at a rival wrestling company. That's the big story right there, Coach. And who's teasing this? AEW's biggest star, MJF. So there's a reason for everything, as we know, Coach. And he's sneaking it out there, subtly saying things. Oh, it's not good for his mental health, Shane's mental health, to come here. Tease again. So it'll be very, man, if he, holy, I can't even
tell
think
your mind's spinning right now. I can see
that. It's spinning, man. It can go in a million different directions. Personally, I wouldn't want to see Shane wrestle. I'd rather see Shane be in a, executive role.
Yeah, you know what he should do? If I'm Tony Khan, and we know he reads every dirt sheet, he watches every show. Tony, I know you're watching right now. I'm speaking to you. Imagine this, Tommy, that Tony Khan looks himself in the mirror, and maybe they even shoot this as a skit. And he goes, Tony, you've been a fanboy long enough. You have booked for the boys and let them have creative control for the women long enough. You need somebody to walk in and teach you how to run a company. Somebody with a name that understands how to build a wrestling brand. Tony, that's what you need. And then he turns around and the camera turns around, and who's standing right there behind him? Can you imagine?
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine? And Tommy, we go back 23 years. Remember who was the person when Vince bought WCW that led the invasion angle on TV? And I remember being on the road, and it was one of the most anticipated things I had ever been a part of, waiting to watch them walk out on a WCW show. It was Shane McMahon, was it not?
Shane O'Mac. He's the man.
I mean, this is what the pro wrestling world is all about.
Yeah.
It's about moments, it's about excitement, it's about anticipation, it's about stars. And Shane McMahon is not only a star, but he's the lineage, or whatever word you want to use, to the biggest name in the history of the business. Some would argue he built the business.
You're not going to get an argument from me, Coach. He built it, man. His father was regional. Vince is the one that bought the company and said, hey, either you're with me or not. And he made everybody richer. I mean, I know he crapped on a little, a lot of promotions back in the day, but he made, wrestling what it is today, or else it'd still be regional territory stuff. So he made everybody rich in some sort of way. So, and it's a McMahon. It's a McMahon at AEW. Are you kidding me? I'm like,
the only thing that would rival this, Tommy, would be Stephanie, but Triple H is still running WWE. I mean, that would be next level if she showed up, because then there's something going on there. But let me ask you this, Tommy. What do you think the ultimate reason would be for Shane McMahon to pull the trigger and show up in AEW?
You really want my answer?
I want you to be honest. Yes.
I think he wants to stick it up his family's ass. I think he wants to stick it to people. That's what I think. I think he didn't think he got what he was supposed to get. As we all know, Vince is a very unique guy when he deals with his kids, like giving titles out or placed in the company some way, somehow. And that's why Shane left. I mean, Shane left abruptly, man. We got an email saying, I'm out, dude, and nobody knew anything about it. The next thing I knew was like Andrew Whitaker taking over International, and nobody ever said a word about it. And that was because when Linda stepped down and left to do the political thing, Stephanie wanted it, and Shane and Vince said, no, I'm doing it.
And don't you remember, Tommy? He said at one point, there's one too many McMahons here, alluding to his sister. And I think that's the one thing, Tommy, because you and I were so on the inside and we saw it every day and we felt it. And he was your boss. That when you have a $1 billion brand, like I try to imagine, I've got a daughter and I have a son. You have a daughter, you have a son. I can't even imagine a scenario where if I built a $1 billion brand, hell, maybe BTT will be $1 billion someday. I can't even imagine a scenario where I wouldn't go to my kid and say, hey, help me out. You helped me build it. You've been there since you were little kids. We got pictures of you all the way back to 5 years old. And now when it's worth the most, when Netflix pays them $5 billion for one show, when you and I were there, it was $200 million. And now it's $5 billion. They're not involved. I can't even imagine that in my own life. But that's, I mean,
as a dad, I don't just being a dad too. Like, those are your kids. Like Vince was like, no, this is business, dude.
Correct.
I love you on the outside.
Yeah.
But I love you at the house and I love the grandkids. But when I'm in the office,
it's all business. There was no, and I think that, Tommy, is kind of where I was going. And I apologize for cutting you off.
No, that's right.
But if I'm Shane and I know my dad is worth $1 billion and I'm in my early 50s, I should not have to work ever freaking again. That's the whole point to a family. And then you hear dads all the time, I just want to pass it down. But he's the one guy that doesn't want to do that. And I think you're correct. I think Shane says, this is bullshit. I've been dealing with this for 50 years. I should have $500 million in my pocket. And the narrative they went with when he left was he was going to go build other businesses in China, and he was going to use his international connections to build outside businesses, which he did. But this was always the retirement plan, so to speak, ultimate wealth. But on top of the wealth, Tommy, it's a fun business when you're performing. And Shane loved that part of it. He loved performing. Did he not?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. He loved doing that more than anything. And the dude was creative as hell. I keep telling you, when he left to go to China and he wanted to do those movie deals, I invested in that company, Coach. He said, like,
really?
Yeah, I did. Yep. It didn't go very far. I kind of broke even. But I believed in him though, because his idea was great. Excuse me. And he was he's all business, man. Like, he's creative and he just jumps all over the place with stuff. So him coming to AEW would be the biggest thing since the Bloodline storyline, I would think.
And I would think if you're going to pay, and I don't read the dirt sheets. I don't know exactly how much, but I'm going to guess since they got MJF to stay, he's probably that $5 million a year guy. That I would think if they're being prudent with the revenue they're making, which is not extensive, their TV deal very much up in the air. TNT and Warner Brothers, they're hemorrhaging money, so they don't have a lot to play with. So anything that goes out may not come back. Yep. But I would think that Shane could easily become the highest paid talent, not wrestler, talent that AEW has on the roster.
Dude, I don't blame Tony. He's worth every dime, dude. Just by having his name, he's worth it, Coach. Just saying that McMahon is at AEW. Think of that. That never happened with us. WCW.
What about the other side of it, Tommy? The guy that we never hear from anymore, the guy that's been kind of put into exile and arguably did it to himself, Vince. But we're the one show that we talk about the history, and he's part of that history. But Tommy, he built this, and now he has to sit back and watch his daughter stick it to him at SummerSlam, and now he's got to watch these pictures of Shane with fanboy Tony, as I like to call him, and then show up on a rival. Oh wow! I can't even imagine what Vince feels like right now.
No, I'm sure. Most people wouldn't care. Yeah, I don't know if I'm sure he would be hurt, man. I think he would be, man. He does
hurt or pissed.
I think both, absolutely both. Yeah, I think he'd be hurt and pissed off, but he's very vindictive, dude. As we know, man.
He is. He's
a tough nut. He's a tough nut to crack, man. As you know, you've been in meetings with him. I've been in meetings, and when those cheaters come down and he asks you that question, you better have the answer, man, because he's going to come back with 5 more questions after that.
Yeah, from a physical standpoint, I think I told the story here. I got beat up because I didn't go to Afghanistan of all places. But then, Tommy, I remember we were in Chicago and we were in a meeting, and that's kind of when the internet was really starting to take off because people act like, social media has been here forever. It hasn't.
Right.
And so it leaked that Linda and Mick Foley were scheduled to be surprise people on the show that night. And it leaked in the morning. And he walked in and you could tell he was pissed. And then he just stops the meeting and just cuts a promo and says, if I find out that whoever leaked this is in this room, you don't want to be in this room the next time. And I was like, damn. And he could not have been more serious. Yeah. He just, I don't think a lot of people, well, a lot. He's the top 0.001% to get to be a billionaire and to build a company to get there. A lot of people inherit it or it's financial. He built a blood, sweat, tears, town, city, week after week after week. It's a different way to build a $1 billion brand.
There's no doubt about it. He built that company, nobody else.
Exactly he built a lot of help, but
he had a lot of help. But my point is his ideas were second to none. So
and
they
not
work.
Scared to execute.
Look, huh?
Not scared to execute.
Right. Not afraid at all, man. WrestleMania was a total crapshoot. He put all his money. If that didn't work, he would have been out of business. and we wouldn't be here. Think of that.
I don't even know. At some point, and it's not going to be today, I've got to decide because one day Hulk Hogan was kind of let his guard down, and he told us a story about WrestleMania 1, and I don't know if he was serious or not, but the story he told, and I've got to decide. I'm going to talk to you off air, but there's a story he told us about that day that is one of the most unbelievable things that I've ever heard in my life. But again, it's Hulk, and you can't always take Hulk at his face value. So, but not. All right, so we're going to keep an eye on this whole thing. MJF and Shane McMahon, potentially AEW, potentially this weekend. The other part of this, Tommy, with social media, it's overseas. And taking a private plane and hiding is very difficult to do. But once you land in a foreign country, the paparazzi aren't nearly as bad as they are here in the United States. So you can hide after you get there. But getting there is a different story.
You're right. I mean, he has to go through, your passport and everything. And it could be one of these guys are a mark, like, in England, who's checking your passport. And then he puts out Shane McMahon's there. Boom, blows your whole cover. So, it's different when you fly private, right? It's totally.
You could drive right up to the plane. You can get out of the car and get onto the plane, which is why so many rich people do that. And you never know where they're going to be.
Right.
And then the pilots sign NDAs. The flight attendants sign NDAs. So you can move around, but once you land, people at the airport can take your picture, even the private airport. So it's very difficult to do. And the few times I was involved in something like that, with The Rock that one time with me, him, and Eugene, it changes the whole pop. It changes everything when the fans don't know that you're there.
Yep.
It's worth. Remember when Ronda Rousey got introduced? They flew her to New Jersey and then drove her to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Everybody was camped out at the Philadelphia airport, and they flew her into New York. That's how important it was when they revealed Ronda Rousey to the WWE audience. So we'll keep our eye on this story, but it's a big one. It's a really, really big one. Tommy, something happened last weekend, and full transparency, I was hoping we would be able to do an episode of the show there, but we got to grow as we go. And it's a Fanatics Fest, and it was a bunch of sports stars, wrestling stars, and I thought it was interesting, and I'll give AEW credit for this, that when you start a fan fest and it's in New York, it's super expensive, they're going to sell what do they call them? Not a plot of land, but where you get to have a thing.
A block,
yeah. And WWE, only athletes are sold out. Cody, Rhodes, all these guys. Yep. Now, there was some negative to it because they ran out of time and had to leave, and people got stuck with tickets, got their money back. But AEW also had 2 little stands, and they were busy playing that game where you flip the cup or the water thing because they had no lines. Yep. They weren't selling any tickets. And I'll give them credit, but when you get into a scenario like that, it really screams to me really how popular, aside from the money, WWE is right now, because it was Peyton Manning, and none of the sports stars sold out, and then all the WWE stars did sell out. What did you make of that? Because it's going to be something that becomes a staple in New York for years to come.
Well, Michael Rubin, who owns Fanatics and who handles all WWE merchandise now, it's a win-win for everybody. And I give AEW a lot of credit for stepping in that, where I don't know if Rubin invited him or not, but they didn't get promoted like WWE. I mean,
no.
I saw on TikTok, man, I saw the setup WWE had. They had the whole Netflix poster coming in January. They had entrances. They had everything. I didn't see it. I hate to say I didn't see AEW anywhere around it. They must have been in the corner near the bathroom or something.
They look like a lemonade stand. It looked like a lemonade stand.
Yeah, it's like, but I give him credit for being there. I mean, Tony's a business guy, right? I mean, so he has to, fans are there. Wrestling fans are wrestling fans, no matter how you put it, Coach, right? I mean, they like WWE, and if they saw MJF, I don't know who was there or what, but they would want to go over there and get an autograph. That's what wrestling fans do. So I credit Tony for doing it.
It was a guy named Brian. I'm not extensive on the AEW roster, but it was a guy I recognized his face, but not his name. That should say something. And then there was a women's wrestler there as well. I kind of compared it, Tommy, at least the video that I saw, and it can be a little Sometimes it could be like at the end of the day. So I don't want to read too much into it. But the video I saw, there was nobody at their stands. And I equate it to like somebody calling me and say, hey, coach, you want to come to a wrestling autograph show? And I've been gone for a few years. And I always say no because I'm terrified that my ego will not be able to take sitting there for 3 hours and nobody shows up.
Yeah.
It's the worst feeling in the world. It truly is. And that's what they just experienced right there. And Michael Rubin, they not only, Tommy, did they have entrances, Triple H came out, Travis Scott came out in their entrance. They had all kinds of, and that to me is kind of where we go, is the future. Is I think that's what Triple H has embraced, that Vince always fought. Vince hated having celebrities as a part of the show. It was a necessity. Yep. It was, they would convince him, Vince, you got a big movie, you got to bring LL Cool J on. It made sense. He hated it. WrestleMania, my guys and my girls, they're the stars of the show. I don't need Cyndi Lauper. I don't need any Muhammad Ali. You know, that's how Vince felt in his mind. Yep. And I think Triple H has realized with the hip hop culture, you bring Travis Scott in, you bring Bad Bunny in, you know, you bring all these guys. Now, I think that's the reason you get $5 billion for Netflix. Correct?
Yep, absolutely right. And at the Fan Fest, he gave Kevin Durant the Texas belt, the Fanatics belt. Triple H, actually, he came in the dressing room where Triple H was, and he gave it to Durant. Said, "Man, I gotta put this up now." And then he gave Travis Scott a championship belt. So Triple H is hip to that stuff. He's smart. He knows Travis Scott reaches millions of people. Kevin Durant just got a gold medal for the USA. So shooting that video there is for a reason, guys. It gets Triple H on the map with these guys, and it puts WWE over even more than what they are right now.
It makes him cool as well. And when you're a man in your early 50s, and I can't wait for about 20 years from now for me to get there, is you want to remain relevant to your fan base.
Yep.
That's the whole point.
Yep.
And Triple H, make no mistake about it. For Triple H to do his entrance with the water and the whole deal, his ego is still there. Oh. I mean, he still loves them to be like, you're the man, because he knows with the heart attack, God bless him, he's healthy, but he can't ever wrestle again. It's too dangerous for him. So this is as close as he can touch. Have you noticed at every big event, SummerSlam, overseas, who's the guy that comes out to welcome the audience every single time?
HHH. He still wants that entrance, man. And
he does.
I would want it too, right? I mean, you're running this company. He's the creative guy behind everything, and he's getting a lot of help probably from Heyman and Michael Hayes and Bruce Pritchard and all those guys. But he is the man. He is the man, dude. So why wouldn't you say, give me an entrance, write it into the show? You know.
I think also, we know that TKO, for people at home that may not be familiar or you're new to our show, it's kind of, think of TKO as a big umbrella, and you got UFC and WWE underneath that umbrella. So they have a lot of say in what's going on. They're part of the reason. They're big-time agents. So they do all these deals. And I think as long as the ratings are good, they're selling out, the numbers are good, they're making money, I think TKO will stay away. But you know what Vince Russo said here on the show? He said within a couple of years, he thinks Triple H is going to be gone.
Wow.
Because slowly but surely, TKO is picking off WWE employees one at a time. Not at the Triple H level yet, but there are a lot of people, Tommy, that you and I have talked to that got their pink slips and they're like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
TKO happened.
Yep.
And they're keeping their UFC guys over them.
Yep. He don't pay half as much as what they pay WWE guys, and the WWE boys deserve it, by the way. So I think it's a little different situation for Triple H, though. I think they know he's in with all the boys. And boy, if there was ever a rumbling where Triple H got let go and they brought somebody like Dana White in type guy, the boys would shit all over it.
They would, because you got to know how to write for wrestling. And Dana's not writing. UFC fights are not scripted.
No.
At least I hope they're not. And but Tommy, you just brought up a good discussion, Tommy. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, as Jim Carrey said, let's just say, let's say Triple H was relieved of his duties. who would you put in that spot? Because he's not only in charge of creative and sitting in the room and writing the actual show, but the different little nuances, the details, like Judgment Day on Monday night, when they do the thing, they all come together. They got Damian Priest and Rhea right below them. That's a shot. That's something you got to think about as a producer. That you guys say, all right, I want that shot to put everywhere. That's what Triple H brings to the table. Who would you put in his spot that you think could carry that? Because I have the image of Vince in my head from all those years. Remember, from 1:30 in the afternoon, headset on, standing at ringside. People come in, they go, man, Vince does that. Yeah, he has his hands in everything. Triple H is now that guy. Who would be that guy in your mind?
I would say Bruce Pritchard. Now, if you're talking about a TKO guy,
no, I'm saying
don't know.
Anybody.
I would think Bruce, because Bruce had TV production behind him. He knows all the boys. He negotiates contracts, I'm sure. I think he's probably Triple H's right-hand man. If Triple H stepped down, no doubt in my mind, Nick Khan would appoint Bruce Pritchard.
Really?
That's what I think. I can't think of Michael Hayes. Can't do it. He's more of a storyteller in the ring type of guy. He's not a business guy. Michael's good at the business of wrestling, but business across the board, no way.
Just that Judgment Day, the Judgment Day thing I just brought up. Think about all the different ways they can use that picture. Fanatics makes cards, correct? That Fanatics Festival card. That Judgment Day is going to be a trading card.
Yeah.
Right. Then you've got posters. Boom. Then you got T-shirts. There you go. You got a new T-shirt. Lives on top. Putting it in his thing. So when he comes out, what do you read? Lives on. Like all those types of things. Not everybody's wired to do that, Tommy.
No.
Not everybody's wired to do that.
Yeah. I think Bruce is, though. I think Bruce can do it. I know
he's
Bruce
had so many different spots over the years. And you talk about a guy who has come up off the canvas several times and gotten better. I'm a big fan of Bruce. He's obviously Conrad's a good friend of ours, and in this space, if you would have told me 20 years ago that Bruce would be in his position now, I would have told you you're crazy.
Yeah. Bruce was supervising producer when I started at WWE. He came from Paul Bosch's wrestling. Vince bought Houston Wrestling, and part of the deal was Vince wanted Bruce. Bruce was like 24 years old. He was the boss of the TV studio. It wasn't Kevin Dunn. It was Bruce. Kevin was just a line producer. He was the one that was editing the shows every weekend when there was a superstar show. I'm not even talking about Raw or SmackDown. I'm going back in 88 and 89 before even Raw was thought of, where they shoot 4 weeks of TV at an arena and come back and do 1 week at a time. You know what I mean? So Bruce was the boss. Like when Vince came in and do VOs with Jesse the Body Ventura, it would be Bruce talking to Vince and obviously Kevin too. But in the whole TV production facility on Hamilton Avenue, Bruce was the boss. He was the man.
And a lot of people, especially the young audience, doesn't realize that he was also at that same time one of the iconic characters in pro wrestling as Brother Love, and had his own little talk show, the entire white suit. And boy, when I was a kid, I loved Brother Love. I love you. Oh man, that was golly.
My wife worked for Bruce. She worked for. When my wife got hired, she got hired to work for Bruce Pritchard. And he's a great guy.
Jobs. We've had different. I had 3 jobs at the same time. People just think I was an announcer. You know that.
Yep.
I would always get your interviews, and I think things have probably changed a lot since then. And but man, so I think Bruce would be a good one. I don't know if Shawn Michaels could, but I know that he's got a lot of respect from the NXT crowd. He's Triple H's right hand. So I never thought that Shawn would embrace being a teacher, but from everything I've heard, he's fantastic. So I think Shawn could be one. So I think that'd be an interesting little episode that you and I could do. Just to throw 5 names out there to see, not that we want Triple H going anywhere, but
no,
we never thought Vince would go anywhere either. So it is what it is. You brought up a name, and this could always be a name that you could throw into that hat, and that's Paul Heyman. And at Fanatics Fest, Tommy, he did a sit down for the Not Sam Wrestling podcast. And I like Not Sam. I think he's cool. I think he's a good fan. Yep. I think, him and Peter Rosenberg do a really good job as kind of the side show announcers. And Paul Heyman continues to amaze me at the depth of knowledge that he has, the attention to detail. And I think the reason the Bloodline is so incredibly popular right now, and the reason why they can't miss when it comes to skits and angles, is because of Paul Heyman. In the last 2 weeks on SmackDown, and I'm looking forward to the next few weeks, has been amazing. And yet we haven't heard nary a word from Roman Reigns, have we?
Hasn't spoken a word, Coach. He hasn't said one word. Came in twice, and he bowed up to Solo. They both went at it, which I think is ridiculous.
I did too.
I hate it. I really do. I don't like them going at it at all. I think I love if they use your storyline. This storyline can go on and on and on. Because here you see Roman come out, and you think big time baby face, and when he hugs Solo, it's a fuck you to the crowd, right?
Yep.
Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
It's like,
I wish
now you could take this longer, and then Solo in the back of his mind is like, oh, you screwed me at SummerSlam. Well, I'm gonna get you down the line somewhere, and that's where you get the storyline to go even farther.
And then you allow Rock to become involved down the road too. And right now he's still busy with whatever. I just watched a show on Netflix called Your Honor, and it's like 2 seasons, really good story. And it's basically about a judge whose son hits the son of a mobster's and kills him. And right. So part of that is you had a drug dealer woman whose own crew would get closer and closer and closer to her. Yep. And then they turned their back on her. And the one guy who led it thought everybody was on his side. Then they did the double swerve and swerved it back on him. And then he was, and you could have done, and as I'm watching it, Tommy, on the airplane coming back from Florida this week, I thought this could have been the Bloodline.
Yeah.
Exactly what we discussed they did in this show.
Yep.
And imagine if he would have hugged him like for an awkward long time and just whispered something in his ear. And then Solo is just standing there going, or it could have been like, what do you think you're doing? Yep. This is my spot. I'm going to stand here and it's going to get more and more, whatever he says.
Yep.
And I don't know. It's sometimes they, just like with Judgment Day, when you don't touch for a long period of time, it can be great, or fans can say, I want to see it. But certainly I didn't think it was going to happen week 2.
That was the worst thing that happened, Coach. They had physicality. You get more heat from just going face to face and just about going at it, and you don't go at it, than them just punching each other. And then, they ended up hammering the hell out of Roman Reigns. I hate the whole thing, man. I really do. I'm not. It just becomes another wrestling storyline, not this long-term thing we had for WrestleMania with Cody. And is the story going to be finished? Everybody was riveted, want to know Rock being the best he ever could be, of working, being heel Rock and the boss and all this other stuff. You were wanted to watch every week. Why do I want to watch Roman come in the ring and just start beating each other up? Where's the payoff?
Yeah, well, they're giving the payoff on free TV. And it also, sometimes you dig deeper, and sometimes we're right about this and sometimes we're wrong, Tommy. But Friday nights are not nearly as popular viewing-wise as Monday nights. SmackDown's getting ready to move to USA. I feel like they're keeping the Bloodline and all that there because Randy Orton is on Raw, and he was just on SmackDown 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
So you can't tell me you can't bounce around. But with everything moving, the executives for all these different networks, you still got to do me a solid. No, wait, I'm still in the game. I got SmackDown in 3 weeks. Oh, wait, so those are things that now with so much money on the line that can work their way into storylines. And that sucks. It should never be about networks and ratings. And people that see this quote will be like, Coach is an idiot. But I'm telling you, we've seen it before that they do a solid for a network that's either coming in or at the end of one going out. But you know who's not promoting any of it, Tommy? Fox.
No, they're out.
They're out. You see like one promo during the week. They should be running promos all the time. It's not happening. It's not happening.
They tapped out.
What's that?
They tapped out, dude. That was supposed to go to January, and then USA, they tapped out early. Now SmackDown's airing September 13th, something
That's
like
it.
that, whatever that
Very, very
Friday is,
soon. Yep.
right? On USA Network. So they said, I'm out, dude. And believe
Amazing.
me, when that deal was put together, that whole Fox deal, they dictated who they wanted, and Vince gave it to them, like what superstars.
And I was a part of that. I'm going to continue to tell that story and I didn't need a huge pat on the back. At the time, they gave it to me because we got it on Sports Center, and they used all of those interviews that I got, and they said, hey, if Coach can do ESPN, damn it, Fox can work too. And they bit. And Nick Khan did that deal. It was over $1 billion. That's how he became the president. It was all a trickle-down effect, but that's how everything worked there. But, Tommy, they've been trying to get out of the deal for, I think, since the beginning. Yeah. Because for them, they realized we're not getting the return on our investment that we thought we were going to. Remember that first night, every superstar was there. Rock was there. Everybody, it was this big thing. So let me tell you this, or ask you this, because there's a name that's now getting pushed to the side. And he's a name that sold out his tickets at Fanatics Fest. And you said it yourself. What's next? What's next? And I feel like right now, as much momentum as Cody Rhodes had, that right now that momentum, at least for the here and the now, has stopped. Your thoughts?
It just seems like he's been pushed aside. That's the feeling I get. He gets like he's the champ, and now we got him in the ring saying, "Oh, I think Kevin Owens needs a shot." You can't even have a storyline with this guy. Like, what are you thinking? Cody Rhodes was the hottest thing going, right? And it just seems like they pushed that championship aside to bring the bloodline back, and now it's about Roman and stuff like that. Where I got Cody in the ring saying, hey, you want to face me at Bash in Berlin? And Kevin Owens say, oh, no, I didn't. I'm not worth it, blah, blah, blah. I lost matches. I don't get it, man. But you know what? Cody's a team guy, man. And you'll never see him not work in the ring, not go to a house show, not sign every autograph, Coach. So it really is like, it seems like this past month, even the summer, right after WrestleMania, it just seems like, you know, he fought AJ in France, right? That was a good match. I don't even think AJ, you know, I like AJ Styles, but when you say main event stuff to me, I think of people like The Rock. I think of people like CM Punk. You know what I mean? I don't put, I'm sorry, and I hate to say it, but I don't put AJ in that category.
But here's the problem, Tommy, and this is you just said it. He's such a nice guy, and I think now on some level, whoever's making all the decisions, as much as he stood up for himself when we saw that in the documentary after WrestleMania, I think that he's the ultimate yes guy, and he doesn't like to cause waves because I think there's a part of him that still feels like he's the guy that walked out then came back, and then he wants to be the ultimate babyface.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're the ultimate babyface, you kind of take whatever they give you. They gave you the championship. They allowed you to beat Roman Reigns. They allowed you to do something that The Rock did not want to happen. And we saw that in the documentary, and he fought for it. But after that's done, then you got to keep quiet. Then you got to just be that champion that goes to house shows, that sells out tickets at Fanatics Fest, that shows up overseas, because that's what he does.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Tommy, that's all the time we got for this week, buddy. I love when we do these episodes because we get into stuff that really only guys like you and I can really talk about from an experience standpoint, because it's stuff that fans care about. And as we move forward, I think it's going to start to mold the business on where, as we go into 2025 and Netflix, it really will take shape. So kind of your final thoughts as we head into another week. We also have the War Room that will be on the premium side. If folks have not joined our premium club, we encourage you to do that. But kind of your final thoughts, Tommy, for the week as we head into yet another one.
Raw was very interesting to me. Gunther continues to just, for me, I don't get it, that part of it, him being the champ. Why is he the champ? I'd rather push Damian Priest, but that's another story. I'm really interested where we're going with the bloodline, but now that you've had this physicality, like, you know, where are we going? Where are we going with this now? Like, the storylines that we had would have worked perfect, because somewhere down the line, You knew Solo will probably screw him, and I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen. But then you have the reunion. Then you bring the Wise Man, and you bring Jay, because Jay is not doing anything, Coach, besides saying Monday night that he is going to be in this Intercontinental tournament, and he claimed himself. It wasn't even Adam Pearce saying, hey, I want you in there. It's him doing backstage interviews with the greatest entrance of all time besides Cody, and we're seeing him backstage with Kathy Kelly or Jackie Raymond. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Guys.
Hopefully
on.
they start to get it, or hopefully they start putting on Behind the Turnbuckle in their meetings, because we've had some great storylines. All right, that's all the time we got. Continue to follow us, continue to bring your friends, continue to subscribe and like the videos and like the episodes. Next week, we'll be doing an interview with Maven. That will drop sometime the end of next week. But we've got 3 or 4 different shows here all the time. So turn on your notifications so you don't miss one single second of our content. For Producer Man, for Big Tommy C, I am the coach. We'll see you next time right here on BTT.